Hello everybody and welcome back to another lyrical breakdown with me, your lady friend Bonnie. How are you guys doing? I hope you're doing great. We have reached 1,000 subscribers. I'm really excited about that. I mean, the whole team's pretty excited about that. So keep up the good work. We are still looking for, I believe, 2 more winners. So we may, anybody who's still subscribing as of now, we're still going to include you guys in the contest for the 2 main prizes, which have yet to be given out. The $100 Amazon gift card and request, and the $50 Amazon gift card and request. So those could be yours, So all you have to do is be subscribed, like this or any other of our videos and leave a comment on any videos, and the more that you like and comment, the more you're entered to win. And I'm sure that Holden's going to think up another achievement level and different contests maybe. So if you have any suggestions as to what you would prefer to win, maybe let us know down below in the comments, as well any any songs you want me to break down. As you know, don't forget, you can follow me on Twitter at YLF Bonnie, your lady friend Bonnie. I'd love to see you over there and make some more friends. I'm still running low on my friends. So if you guys do have Twitter, you can absolutely add me there. Let's get into this. This is going to be a lot that we're going to get into. You've seen the title of this video. This week I am doing Classified, and the song is Powerless. So this is a pretty triggering topic. So of the song. So when we get into it, FYI, there's a lot kind of going on, and kind of a general disclaimer for anybody that's very emotionally affected by this kind of stuff. I mean, I really was, so you might be as well. So let's try to get through this without crying. Fingers crossed. Classified is actually a Canadian rapper, if you're not already aware. He's from, I think it was Enfield in Nova Scotia. So he's from the Maritimes, and he kind of talks about issues that are relevant to him, as well as issues that are relevant to Canadians, and kind of, puts out his universal message based off of what he's seeing in Canada and the problems that we face here, which obviously I think may have a stronger hold to us because he is talking about things that he's seeing, and I think a lot of us have seen a lot of the problems in Canada, I think, but these are things that are happening everywhere as well. So I think it is definitely universal messages that he's talking about, and that he's trying to get his get out. And I think that he's a really powerful artist, and uses his platform for really good. Let's get into the song Powerless. Let's listen to it now.
Explained to mother, but she says she don't believe it. Nobody want to talk about it.
Okay, so right at the very beginning, the first thing that he says, it's hard to be strong when you feeling powerless. So right away, if you haven't listened to this song before, I highly suggest you do that. Go listen to it right now. I'll wait. Go do it. Go listen to this song, and the music video, which I'm going to get into at the end. They're both absolutely incredible. Oh, I forgot to mention that this came out just very recently. It came out April 4th, 2018. So it's a very recent song. At least the music video came out. I didn't see anything about there being any album that was coming out, but maybe just sort of releasing this and just kind of getting out his message and kind of what's on his mind. So sorry about that. Just based off of the first line, it's hard to be strong when you're feeling powerless. That there's going to be a strong message, and it's going to be about someone that feels powerless. So the next lines are, I'm sorry that she is affected. I did not ever intend to hurt anyone. How in the name of God could you think that she wouldn't be affected? How? You have no idea how devastated we are because of what you did. So that's kind of like spoken word. It's like, I don't know if this is like an actual recording from like a trial from a situation that actually happened, or if this is just kind of like a reenactment, voice actors or whatever. I couldn't find anything anywhere that said, whether it was or it wasn't. So I don't really know if this was like, like I said, an actual recording of a trial or of a certain trial, or just people reenacting. But like, this is clearly about a female, because the two people that are talking, one of them says, how could you not think that she wouldn't be affected? So it's obviously about a girl, a woman, a female, and a man that hurt her, because it's a conversation between a man and a woman. And then sort of like this mother figure, something that's protecting this girl or kind of standing up for her. Okay, so she wonders why nobody hears her. The footsteps in the hallway have her terrified. Scared as she looks into his staring eyes, he crawls into her bed and she just lays there, almost paralyzed, feeling powerless. So this girl is crying, and she wonders why nobody can hear her, and, because she needs help in this moment. This is the sound of a man approaching. The door is terrifying, even just like you can hear, like the bad person is coming up, in the hallway. You can hear his steps. You're so afraid and attentive of those sounds that you couldn't miss it, it's him. And she's scared. And he gets into bed with her, and whatever happens. And she's just so frozen with fear, and she just feels powerless. Okay, so next lines are, she feels so powerless, she closed her eyes and hides under the covers as her father tried to touch her. He took advantage of her, took all her innocence from her. She tried to explain to mother, but she said she don't believe it. Nobody want to talk about it, because this don't happen to good people. This don't happen to good people. So she feels powerless, and she tries to hide from him. And as her father, who's doing this to her, which initially, I think it's her father. It's getting into the bed with her. And it still could very well be, he's talking about other situations where this happened. But in the music video, it's a father, like a priest, like a Catholic priest. Like that kind of father, like a religious figure. And they were also major contributors to the plight, or I guess the victimization of Native people. There was a lot of converting and strife. I think they have a lot of issues with Catholic churches and priests and like all of like that kind of side of things, at least here in Canada. I'm not sure how it is like elsewhere, like if it was only Catholics that were doing this or if there were other religions that were doing this, especially with the Native people. So you guys let me know what you guys know, or if you don't know, like let me know, and then maybe this is something that's going to spark some like interest and like research. So yeah, so it's and this was done to both girls and boys. She tried to tell her mother what happened, but her mother won't believe and just doesn't want to believe. And she just says, like, this is not the kind of thing that happens to us. Like, we're good people. Like, this would never happen. But unfortunately, like, this kind of thing absolutely does happen. Which we all wish it didn't. So, on to the next lines. So, at the age of 17, She finally went to the police, charged him for the crimes he did, and finally took him off the streets. Then at the trial, she had to relive it all again, understand, explain how this man took her life within. So when she was 17, she finally was able to go to the police. And so this, like I said, this obviously happened when she was a child, because she was, only at 17 was she able to go. So, she had to be younger than that. And I guess it took all that. It took all that time to gather the strength to be able to go. And when she probably realized that nobody else was going to stand up for her and believe her or do something about it. So he gets charged and goes to jail. Then at the trial, she has to basically go through the whole mental anguish of telling her grueling details of her rape as, a child by this man in order for the jury and for the judge to understand exactly what happened and to relive, maybe to remind him of what happened and what he did to her. And how he took her innocence, her soul, and her childhood, all these, if she was a young girl. So abused for 9 years. He got 4 months in the bin. She got a lifelong sentence. He got a slap on the wrist. So he abused this girl for 9 years, I'm guessing, which is a long time. And he gets a minimum sentence of 4 months. And it just doesn't seem fair. And that's basically what kind of triggers this song for Classified. So yeah, I'll get into all that at the end. She feels this way for the rest of her life. And, he gets this little charge and this little punishment. And for her, this is something that she's going to have to, suffer with and get over and deal with and struggle with. And, it could affect other things. So, it's not easy to live with. It happens all too much, but too many keep it hush-hush. How these kids supposed to trust us, man? Don't let them feel powerless. So this happens more than we'd like to admit. And I think too many of us are scared to admit the truth. The mother was, how she turned a blind eye. She didn't want to hear it. She didn't want to admit that she was dealing with this situation, that she didn't understand what she was doing, or, whatever happens. It's people just keep things quiet, and they don't want to talk about it, and they just want to pretend like it's not happening. And then just how are kids supposed to trust any adults when this kind of thing happens, if they don't listen to them and they don't do anything to help prevent this from happening? And they just turn a blind eye, like I said, that in itself just makes them feel powerless. And so, that's the kind of thing that we as people need to stop doing. So, I guess that's it. We don't want to let them feel powerless. Let them know that there's hope and there's justice and that there's peace in this world, and there's good things no matter what. I guess good things come out of everything, out of bad situations, I think. And then we have I Won't Feel Powerless. I Won't Feel Powerless. And it's a girl that sings this part. And I'm guessing, she's probably feeling she won't let herself feel powerless. She will stand up for herself, or she'll do something. And then sort of the bridge here, or the hook, I'm not really sure. Thank you to my hero. I hope to meet you someday. Can anybody out there hear me? I hope somebody can hear me, because I don't want to be here no more. One day, because I don't want to be here no more. One day. So this is a girl singing this. And when I say girl, it is a younger sounding girl that's singing it, maybe around 11 years old or so. So I think, and she's kind of thanking her hero, or, she maybe she wants to thank her hero, whoever stands up for her and whoever stops this. And, she hopes to meet you one day. So she's hoping that maybe this is going to happen in her lifetime. Someone's going to stand up and make a difference and stop this from happening, or or something. Someone's gonna make a difference. And it's very sad, and it feels almost like suicidal from such like a young voice. Like she kind of just wants to be out, and she doesn't want to be here no more. Like, is it like Earth? Like, does she not want to be here, like living anymore? Obviously, like after like a rape type situation or molestation situation, like I feel like lots of people end up feeling that way. So I get it. And she says, one day she'll be free from, like, I guess, all this torture and pain, and whether that means she'll kind of be at peace, or like whether she'll rest in peace. So like whether it's not, she's going to kind of, I think she just wants to like understand like what happened, and she'll escape from like all of this like crazy stuff that happened to her. And then we hope, because I don't want to be here no more. So he, Classified, sings the we hope, and then the girls sing because I don't want to be here no more. So I think he's kind of also saying that too, as sort of like an outsider. Like he's not really an outsider. I think he gets into it. But I think that he's sort of saying like, we can work together and we can change this. Okay. So then kind of like the second verse, shout out where my birthplace is, and to the First Nations, and to the people making the best out of the worst cases, and too many unanswered questions and open murder cases. Without a voice, how are we supposed to encourage changes? So kind of shouts out his birthplace in Canada. So I guess particularly Nova Scotia, and to the First Nations. So like, the Indigenous, or the whatever you guys call them where you're from, like the first people who were, I guess, living there. I guess that's what it is, right? So they're the First Nation, and to those making the best out of the worst. And like he's heard a lot of terrible stories from his fans, and I think that he really knows like what he's talking about when he says that. I think a lot of people connect with him, and they tell their stories to him. And so I think he knows kind of like what's really been going on. So too many left behind with questions, and family and friends being left with open murder cases that just never get solved, because they're not high priority, basically because they're Native. And so they're kind of not so cared about or cared for, or nobody takes the time to like, just think, oh, well, another one's gone missing. Like, they don't really, I think a lot of the time there's a lot of conflicting messages, and I think that, and racism that has lingered on throughout the years about the Native people. But I think that that's just ridiculous, just like all racism is. So yeah. And like if they can't, speak out because they're not here, then who will? Like those who were murdered, like they're not going to be able to like use their voices because they're not here. So like, how can we make a difference? How can we make changes today if nobody will stand up and say like, hey, like this needs to stop. Like, like we need to do something about this, like now, today, like let's do it. So I think that that's kind of like what Classified was getting at in this song. So my grandmother was part white and part Native. In fact, my high school was part white and part Native. Personally connected, I've met people who've been affected. They've been asking for some help, but they've continually neglected. So, Classified is kind of telling you what he knows about this situation and like his perspective on things, and the fact that he's kind of, his grandmother was part white, part Native. So, I think he's just saying like this is who he is, and that's how he kind of understands what, maybe it was something that he saw growing up, or whatever. So I think he sees. Yeah, so I think that his grandmother is just part white and part Native, and he's got that connection, and he's saying that he understands and that he has that part of him in him as well. And that's why he's personally connected, and like he knows people who have been affected by all of these crimes and all this like kind of unserved justice, so they've, and all these people have been asking for help, but nobody will help them, so they just get continually neglected. And there's just these people who are victims of rape, of murder, of being missing. Nobody knows where they are, if they were, if they're dead in a ditch, or if they're, across the country, like nobody knows where they are. And, which is also, unfortunately, a lot of these women are used in the trafficking industry, like and used in sex slavery and things like that. So, I mean, that's like a big, crime as well. And just nobody listens and nobody will help these women. So how many more of these Indigenous women have to go missing before someone will listen, huh? We need to change the conditions. Maybe it's blatant racism. Maybe there's hate in the system, but we gotta fix it. So, I mean, how many Indigenous women will end up gone missing until someone will take it seriously? Like, we have to change, and like maybe it's racism, and then maybe there's hate, but it doesn't, like, at that point, like, you have to change things and like to keep hate out and to start helping the people of this country, and like, like these original people, like, of this country and of this land, the real like the real OGs, I guess, of Canada, of the United States, of Australia, of countries all over the world, and I think they very often, or if not always, face discrimination and like misrepresentation, and like people like dismiss them, like they don't take them seriously, or because they live off the land or whatever. And I think it's just so stupid. So yeah, so we have to change that. We have to make sure that things change, and so that there's rules to keep, that there's laws in place, that whether someone likes or dislikes these people, that there's laws in place to protect them, and someone does something about the laws. Because the people feel powerless, and the mothers feel powerless, and the fathers feel powerless. Like, don't anybody care about my daughter? So basically, because, all these people feel powerless, the parents feel powerless, and how frustrating that must be, that nobody will take your daughter's case seriously, or, like, oh yeah, we'll look into it. Like, it's dismissed almost, so, or they just don't, the charges of like the people who caused these crimes to just get away with like almost nothing. So it is definitely something to be said, and I think that that's exactly what he's talking about. So don't anybody care if she's alive or she's been slaughtered. They deserve to know, so they can go and bury her with honor. So is there nobody that really cares about the fact that someone else's daughter has gone missing, and just like that, and nobody questions whether she's dead or alive, or like, and these people who were left behind, like, they deserve to know what happened to her, so that they can kind of give her body and her soul the peace that it deserves. And I think that kind of has to do with maybe with like the souls of these girls that are like taken and murdered or missing, or whatever happens to them, and then and I think that kind of has to do with like the one day line that's kind of in the chorus, kind of maybe like one day they'll be saved and they'll be rescued, and from maybe like where this tragedy happened, and they'll get to be like happy, and like like a restless spirit, basically, right? Like kind of like a ghost, like they just want to have that peace. Like, I'm not trying to relate this with ghosts, but like that's the best way I can like kind of describe like that kind of situation. Like, a ghost isn't necessarily someone that's like at peace, and like they have a restless soul. And I think that that's kind of like what it is. Like they're sort of stuck in limbo. And I think that that's kind of what it's like on Earth as well for them. So, I mean, I think that's so fucking sad. Yeah. Big up to those fighting on and everybody fighting strong. That's the next thing. So he just has like, kind of like a nod for like those who are still like fighting this cause, and keep your head up and stay strong, and yeah, keep making noise. Okay. And then Classified says, I wish that I could do more than just write a song. I feel so powerless. I feel so powerless. It's hard to feel strong, but don't feel powerless. So Classified wishes he could do more than just write this song. And he too feels like powerless. But I mean, I think this is a lot more than a lot of other people are doing. So I think that that's a great start at the very least. And I think also too, like, I think that he was frustrated and he felt powerless because, anyways, I'll get into the whole like case thing after, but like at the end. So I think he kind of feels powerless about like just everything that he's seeing, and like people's responses to things. And I think it's just crazy that it's happening now. Like this came out 2018, so like this is still like, this is a current situation, how he feels and what he's seeing and what's going on in the world. So yeah, it's hard to feel, strong, but don't give up. Don't feel powerless. He's here, and like, we're all supporting you. And like, I guess that's it. And then the last lines of this song are, thank you to my hero. I hope to meet you someday. Can anybody out there hear me? I hope somebody can hear me, because I don't want to be here no more. One day, because I don't want to be here no more. One day. And the little girl singing at the end, hoping that one day they'll be saved and freed again. They don't want to be here in this situation. They don't want to be here, without any help. And knowing that, whoever is doing this is going to get away with such a little minimum, sentence for this like heinous crime that they're committing, and leaving these mental and emotional scars, and sometimes physical scars on these girls, for the rest of their lives. And it just sucks. It's not fun at all. So yeah, this guy, it just sucks that he's gonna like, maybe, in a few months or a few years, like this guy's gonna be out again. And just knowing that he might do this again, or that he might be there, like, around in your community, or I don't know. It's not fun. I can only imagine. I can't imagine actually what that's like at all. Like that there's, like someone out there that like committed this crime and then ends up being released not that long after, and you probably haven't even finished processing and dealing with like all of like the emotions and the situation. From the situation, I guess. And then he's out free. And I can only imagine what that's like, having to deal with that and like coming across him again in your world. Yeah. So basically, like I wrote this, I spent, a few hours yesterday in particular, like really kind of like digging into this song, reading articles, and watching the music video, and finding out exactly what was going on, and like what this was based off of, and like what inspired this song. And I basically cried all night. So there was a lot to go through. So I'm going to leave some links down below if you guys want to look into it. I highly suggest that you watch this music video. It's 100% worth it. You'll cry. I don't care how tough of a man you are. Like, at the very least, your eyes are going to be watery, if you have any sort of soul. Or maybe you're just that stoic. I don't know. But it's hard. It's a hard hitting thing, especially, like I said, for Canadians. I mean, he's Canadian, I'm Canadian, I'm from Montreal. So, I mean, it's not that far. It's, 2 provinces over, basically. And this kind of thing is happening, and it's happening here, and it's happening across the country and across the world. And so, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, basically, this is like a kind of like a quote. I'm going to be quoting some of the CBC articles about like this whole thing here. So a quote is, I received over 500 emails from people I don't know that told me what they have went through, whether it was rape, being molested as a child and put through some horrible things, and how all of their abusers got off with next to nothing. So Classified actually posted that on Facebook. So, I mean, that's a pretty strong message. Like, he's saying, like, I've got all these people who have been sending me these messages, and they're all telling me the same thing, and they're all going through the same thing, and they're all, there's a lot of people who are in, maybe who are Native, and they feel like that connection with him as well. So this whole story basically stemmed from this rape that happened in Nova Scotia, I believe it was, where, and I'm going to quote this here, where a 41-year-old man lured the young girl, who was 11 years old at the time, to his home and repeatedly sexually assaulted her during the summer of 2014. And the guy's name was a neighbor and a family friend. And they said that he used threats and physical force to ensure cooperation, including threatening to burn down her family's house and pulling her hair. And the victim was not able to walk properly for days after this happened. And I guess every time that it happened, so that's what really was the main point of this story, I think, and that this keeps happening. And he ended up with 5 years for that in jail, and then he Classified wrote to the judge who was on the trial for having given such a reduced sentence, and that the guy got all the things that are fair, I guess, in the judicial system. He got I think it was good behavior, and that he was mentally ill, so he had reduced sentences. I think he cooperated with whoever, and so again he got a reduced sentence. So it only came out to 5 years for this horrible thing of raping an 11-year-old girl. I'm assuming she's also a Native, if that's kind of the whole point of this song. I'm assuming that based off of the whole theme of this. So yeah. So anyways, so he wrote to the judge, and I think the judge was kind of maybe don't threaten me, I'm a judge. I think that he wasn't necessarily threatening him, but just kind of being how could you have done I didn't read what it was, or maybe I did. I was reading a lot. Kind of, I think that he was kind of just pretty pissed off, and wrote a few things to the judge. And then the music video, I'm just kind of going to give you the synopsis, but I'm sure you're going to go watch it because it is 100% worth it, and the link will be in the description. So the music video shows there's a priest having done something bad. So, and there's kind of a girl who was running out of the room behind him, who's kind of not in the main shot, but you can kind of see her running out of the room. And you hear the voices of the conversation at the beginning of this song. And then kind of the girl who is scared in her bed, and they show different girls, but I think it's all kind of it's showing that this happens to everybody, and no matter what race you go through, or you're a part of, you're gonna go through something like this, wherever you are. If you have, I guess it's just luck of the draw, I guess, really. I mean, what happens? It's unfortunate. I wish people wouldn't do this kind of stuff. And then so we see like a man entering the room, and then we see like the girl sort of. I think it's the same, or supposed to be the same girl, kind of as a kid, and or just another girl, who's kind of like an older teen, maybe like 17, and she's homeless, and then she gets kind of picked up and given food. And then we see like in the next shot, like her, like, kind of in a field, and her running from this man who's kind of gaining on her. So obviously, I don't know. I mean, kind of can assume that something's going to happen. And then it pans, right away to, because she's been murdered or she's gone missing because of who knows what. Just because she wanted some food because she was a homeless person, or because of all this other stuff that has happened, and then it pans to signs holding up of actual missing and murdered Indigenous women, like actual cases that are going on like today who are still missing. So it kind of shows that. And then there's young girls kind of like in their traditional dress, dancing in like a forest, I guess doing like a traditional type of dance. And then there's red dresses hung on the trees, which I assume he was intending on, kind of representing those with the women who aren't there, who are missing, kind of like having their presence around and like dancing for them. So then we see that there's like flyers posted about the priest touching young people, and like this is like kind of like the other priests are kind of like removing them from like the from the streets and from the windshield of people, and that the priest is kind of being like hounded by like people who are protesting him, and I'm guessing like this has to do with like his trial as well. So I mean, which is fair. I mean, there's not more people there. So, and then we see it kind of pans back to like the to the homeless girl, or the homeless teenager in the forest, or not in the forest, in a field. And I also just wanted to mention right now is that it was shot in Millbrook, on Millbrook First Nation. And that's a Mi'kmaq First Nation group, if you're not aware. And like all of the people, in this video features, like everybody who's supposed to be Indigenous is Indigenous, except, and I think that the only exception is the main protagonist. She's, obviously an actress, and then so she's not like the real. She's in the poster of missing girls, but she's not an actual missing girl, but all of the other girls are actually missing girls. So anyways, back to that. So then we go back to the, like I said, the homeless teen, and she's kind of walking through the field, and I'm guessing like there are other kids there who have been like attacked earlier on, and they're maybe there too, like maybe it's sort of like a safe afterworld or something. Like I wasn't really sure what they were trying to like say, but I think that like, anyways, I just thought it was lovely. So anyway, she's there, and like all these other kids who are dressed in like the traditional outfits, and then there's men, and they're kind of like dancing in a circle, but like kind of in place in a circle, and then there's men in the middle with like a drum, and they're all beating the drum, which is part of their culture. And so and they're singing in the middle, and even though the song's playing over it, you can imagine like what they sound like if you've ever been to like a powwow, or like ever kind of experienced any sort of like Native American or traditional type of or First Nation types of like ceremonies, like there's a lot of like drumming and singing and dancing, and it's really wonderful. So at the end of the video, there's kind of like silence, and the drummers have stopped drumming, and everyone has stopped dancing, and like everyone just kind of stopped and silent and in place where they are, and then we can kind of hear like the faint drumming, and like we hear them singing, like we hear like the them singing like a traditional song, or I don't really know what their songs are called. And for me, like, I took away that like their beat and like their voices and like they're like the heartbeat of like our nation, and like kind of, I know maybe I'm taking it too far, but like I felt like, like we can still listen for their heartbeats and for like their voices and stuff like that, even if they're just faintly there in the background. Like we need to remember that they are there, and like they're like, like I said, like they're like the First Nations. They're the first people that were here, and we should respect them and like give them justice. Yeah. So that's what I, kind of what I hear. Or, you can let me know what you guys took away from it, or if you felt that there was something different there, definitely let me know. And then it kind of pans to like, two kind of quotes on the screen at the end, kind of just saying about like how honored these women are in their communities, and how they should be, kind of honored, I guess, in all communities, and that we must protect these women and do something about this. And I think that after having listened to like this song and watched the music video and read a bunch of articles, and like it's just been quite a trip, and like I mean also too, like I know a fair amount of the struggle that they go through, and I've been to the March for Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women, which you can look up. They happen all across Canada, and I believe all across the world. There are marches and vigils that are held for any missing and Native, missing and murdered Native women, which there are unfortunately plenty of, too many of. So I think that that's kind of like what we have to say, and like what he's saying, like anyways. I'm off track. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. Unfortunately, it was a bit more grim this week, a bit more real, a little bit more political and Canadian. So I think that this message, classified's message, can be something that a lot of cultures can feel, and I think that we all kind of know about this, and I think that we all can draw on some sort of experience that's similar to our own, and kind of take away more from his message, and take away more of a meaning, and get angry about these kind of situations that are happening, and doing something about that anger, and like making a voice, like getting angry for these murdered and missing women who don't have a voice and can't be heard. So that's it. That's all for me. Yeah, hopefully I'll get to something a little bit more uplifting next week. I'll probably go through and pick one of your requests. So if you do have any requests for me for next week, definitely leave them in the description below. Like this if you if you went and checked out any of his videos, or any of the links below, or if you found out who Classified was, a good Canadian rapper, and he's great. Like, you should definitely go check out this song and more of his if you haven't already. And that's it for me. Bye, guys.